Thank you so much for joining me in this video lecture. This is Gurpal Singh from Gursar Education, and as you all know that we have already talked about so many things regarding the business environment, international business. We have already taught you regarding the introductory lecture in which we covered the different kinds of a business environment. After that, we have talked in detail regarding the economic environment in which we have studied different kinds of economies persistent in the world, and after that we have already gone through from the different economic policies like fiscal policy and monetary policy as well. So in this video lecture we are going to cover the different aspects regarding the industrial policies, and this is going to be covered under economic, you can say this can be the further part of furtherization of the economic environment as well. So we have to talk about industrial policies. I shall teach you in detail all the industrial policies available after the independence of India. So first of all, we shall be talking about the industrial policy 1948, then 1956, 1977, 1980, and the final is the new economic policy, which is currently prevalent all over the India. So all these things are going to be talked about in this particular video lecture, and I hope you would enjoy that as you have already enjoyed the previous lectures as well. So just going to share with you the screen so that everything is visible to you, and I hope that you would have already gone through from the previous lecture, because the upcoming lectures are only the extension of these lectures. So if you have gone through from previous video lectures, then obviously understanding the upcoming lectures shall become very easy for you. So just going to share the screen with you. I hope you enjoy this video lecture. So I hope that will be completely visible to you. So this new topic is going to be regarding industrial policy. I must tell you, we are already very advanced now, because I know genuinely this was the decision taken by the government that the exam has been preponed. So this is why the reason that we are recording this video lecture. This is the part of business. This is actually the part of business environment and international business. Both of these concepts are very important. We shall be trying our best to take as maximum video lectures as possible in this month, because this is just the start of September, and I believe that we can take so many lectures, okay, because we are left with only few days now, but we shall be trying to cover at least 3 or 4 subjects, 2 at least from paper 2nd and 2 at least from paper 1. So this topic is going to be regarding industrial policy. The basic lecture we have already recorded, okay. We shall be sending you whenever its days comes, although today was the day assigned to the particular topic named oligopoly, okay. Oligopoly concept is there, and in paper 1 we have to cover the topic regarding proportion and percentages. We have already delivered a longer than 1 hour lecture. I hope you would have gone through from that, then you will be able to understand the things, okay. So this topic is particularly regarding industrial policy. You would know that after India got independence, there were so many policy measures taken for different sectors in India when the new government was formed, okay. So when the new constitution was framed, there was completely shattered economy of India. Okay, the economy was completely shattered, and there were so many sectors which had to be reformed. So on these grounds, the government took the initiative to revive or revitalize the industries as well. So from then the act was passed, okay, industrial regarding the industries. And from then onwards, there have been four major policies, okay, which gave their own objectives, so that it was possible nowadays that the industry's shape has completely changed, okay. So you can see that the industrial pace has grown by years so much. Okay, so if we are making the graph of that, okay, the industries grew at a wide rapid range because there have been new concessions to particular sector, and there have been some of the amenities, some of the facilities available by the government to small scale sectors or small scale or medium enterprises as well. So in this way government took so many initiative, and why this is necessary for us to understand, I'm just going to tell you. The first reason is being the student of your particular subject, because you have to go through from business environment and international business as well. In both contexts this particular topic is very very important. Okay, and secondly, uh, it's very obvious that you must have the knowledge regarding these because your particular area is related to commerce or management. Okay, so this is why it's very necessary, and in our syllabus particularly this name has been written. And luckily there have not been so many policies. Okay, there are not so many policies, only 4 major policies are there which you have to go through, because number of times we have experienced that even they can ask you what happened in a particular industrial policy. So I'm just going to explain one by one all the relevance regarding industrial policies. Okay, so we shall be talking about these in detail, and we shall be starting in a very chronological manner. I hope you got my idea. In year wise I shall tell you. Once the questions was asked in a way that it was asked that some industrial policy names were there and their year had been given in the second list, and the question can even ask you that you have to match the correct list. Okay, in this way the question even asked can be asked. So I hope you would be very serious about listening all this, and you would have already gone through from the previous lectures as well. So this is going to be the first. Okay, so what do we mean by industrial policy? Any policy taken for just reviving, revitalizing, or giving greater autonomy to our industrial sector is known as industrial policy. Any policy or any initiative taken by the government which can help the industries to grow further is known as industrial policy. Okay, these have been, I think, some kind of historical lines. The pace, pattern, and structure of industrialization in an economy is highly influenced by its industrial policy, because this is the backbone of everything. Industrial policy is backbone of everything, because industrial policy determines to which sector you have to give how much funds, or how much particular finances are to be provided to a specific sector. So we can say that the industrial policy consists of philosophy to determine the pattern of industrial development of a country, its procedure, principles, rules, regulations for the control of industry. Okay, so in industrial policy, in every year, okay, every year some policy measures are taken, but major industrial policies were issued. These are only 4. Okay, so what does it actually means? It covers all the philosophy, all the procedure, all the principles, all the rules, all the regulation which can control the industries, or which can emphasize to the development of our industry. So it's all about that. I hope you have got that idea. Okay, and who takes that decision? Obviously government or central government take the decision regarding the industries. So now we are just going to move further. So the very first policy was taken, industrial policy in 1948. Okay, on 6th of April 1948, Government of India adopted industrial policy resolution for accelerating the industrial development of the country. They took the decision first of all because the economy was completely shattered. There was a need of a policy or framework which could tell how to make all the systems bind together. So the policy resolution contemplated a mixed economy which included both public sector and private sector. So it was thought that Indian economy shall be the mixed economy And to both the sector, equal kind of attention was given, like to public sector as well, private sector as well. You can see that Indian economy, it can be considered to be a mixed economy, because here both kind of sectors revive together. You know that so many students are appearing in the examination, government examination, just to get placed in the government official or government sector. In the same way, so many students have done their MBA as well, so that they can get uh, high profile jobs and in private sectors as well. So we can make the conclusion that Indian economy is a mixed economy, which is the summation of both public and private sector as well. And in industrial policy 1948, attention to both these sector was given. Okay, so how that was given, I'm going to explain you. This particular policy of 1948, it was divided into four. It divided Indian industries into four categories. Okay, in four categories the industries were divided. In the first category, okay, those industries were defined. Those were fall in the first category, which had exclusive state monopoly. That means which has the complete monopoly of the government, in which only the government can work. No private entrepreneur or private sector was involved, and they were never involved, never allowed to involve even. So what were these sectors? These were like arms, ammunitions, then production and control of atomic energy, ownership and management of railway transport. So all these things were included in the first category. What I am teaching you, I am teaching you how the Indian industries were divided into different categories under the Industrial Policy Resolution 1948. And the second category, there were included coal, iron, steel, aircraft manufacture, shipbuilding, manufacture of telephones, then after that telegraphs, wireless sets, mineral oil industries. All these things were given preference under the second category, and the government allowed some, only to some extent, the private entrepreneurship as well in these industries. And you don't need to be worried about, they are not going to ask you, or it's a very deep question, that which sector were allowed for the private things. In the second category, these were divided. Okay, these things were divided. In the third category, okay, in the third category, there were included 20 important large scale basic industries, which were kept reserved for the first time to the private sectors. To private sector, 20 important large sector industries were defined. We have written name of everything. You are not supposed to cram all these words, all these names. Okay, but what you have to do, you can go just one or two times, automatically these will be into your mind. Okay, and it is very obvious that these kind of things like arms, ammunition, atomic energy, and after that the privatization of telephone, telegraph, mineral industries, this is being done right now only. But at the time when we got the independence, all these industries, all the industries in the second category, majorly in the second category, and whole of the industries of the first category were only in the hand of a government. And when we talk about third category, for the first time they were given to private sector as well, that the private entrepreneurs could be encouraged. So what are these categories? I'm not going to take the name of each and everything shall be provided to you, but I'm just going to tell name of some industries which were kept reserved for the private sectors first time. First was salt, then automobiles, then tractors, then prime movers, heavy chemicals, electric engineering, machine tools, fertilizers, electrochemical industries, rubber manufacturing, power and industrial alcohol, cement, paper, sugar, newspaper, air, sea transport, minerals, all these industries. Okay, I have taken name of, I think, around 15 industries. So 20 were left for the private sector for the first time. And if we talk about the fourth category, this is the last one under the Industrial Resolution Act 1948. This comprised of a remainder of the industrial field, which was kept open to private sector, including both individual as well as cooperative. In these fields, the company's investment was also allowed. Okay. That you can investment in a very cooperative manner as well. So these were industries. Okay. So these were like in industrial policy, special emphasis was given laid to cottage and small scale industries. So these are those industries in which the cooperative investment was also encouraged. And industrial policy in 1948 gave encouragement to these kind of industries as well. So these were all the four categories which were defined in the Industrial Policy Act 1948, which we have to cover. So the second one is Industrial Policy Resolution 1956. After 8 years of passing the Industrial Policy Act of 1948, there was the year 1956 when it was realized that some more things should be done. Some more policy measures should be needed so that industries could be revived further and there could be some more beneficial opportunities to both the private hands and the public sector as well. So Industrial Policy Resolution was passed in 1956. Okay. So we can say that after proclamation of industrial policy 1948, Indian economy had to face a series of economic and political changes, because you can understand that obviously now you're appearing net exam, you must be somewhat aware of the independence history. There was series of economic and political changes that time. So a fresh industrial policy was needed for the country. So on April 30, 1956, a second industrial policy resolution was adopted in India, which replaced the first one. Okay. So obviously there were new objectives were there. We see what was there in this policy. It had some objectives. Okay. It had some objectives. It told that there should be the development of heavy and machine making industries. It gave emphasis to that. Then it emphasized on the expansion of a public sector as well. So it told that the government should have more control over the industrial basis. So it told that. And after that, there was the establishment of large and growing cooperative sector as well. Cooperative sector, I have already taught you. Okay. Some industrial bases in which the cooperative investment like cottage and small scale industries, that was encouraged, and that was encouraged further in the Industrial Policy Resolution 1956 as well. And then after that, encouragement of diffusion of ownership and management of the private sector. And it was told that ownership and management can be considered to be the separate. You would have gone through from the concept of a separate legal entity number of times, because being a student of particular subject, separate legal entity you would have learned so many times. Okay. So it was encouraged in the Industrial Policy Resolution 1956, because for the first time Companies Act was passed during that period. Number of acts and number of laws and number of sections were written in which it was fully categorized that ownership and management could be made separate. So these were some of the policy measures regarding 1956. We see further. So it's not about that. So majorly these four items were emphasized in the Industrial Policy Act 1956. I must tell you, although these are extremely longer, if you go through from the reading of only 1956, it can be more than 2000 pages as well, but you are not supposed to go through from all these till now or today. For the exam point of view only, we have to study only those things which are relevant. So objectives, there were only 4 major objectives for the Industrial Policy Act 1956. The first was development of these sectors, then expansion of a public sector, then growth of a cooperative sector, and diffusion of ownership and management of a private sector. So this was all about that. After that, after 21 years, after 1956 policy resolution, you know, obviously there was always the political changes, like Janta government was there at that time, okay, after the emergency situation. So when they formed the government, they obviously, whenever the new government come, they dislikes the policy or the this different instruments made by the previous government. This is very obvious, okay. So when Janta government came into force, they did not like the industrial policy statement, and they always wished to make changes. This is why new industrial policy statement was taken into consideration, and this is known as Industrial Policy Statement of 1977. It was issued in December 1977. Janta government announced that, and they termed it as a new industrial policy, and they gave a statement in the parliament, obviously. Now we shall take what are the different elements of these policies. Okay, that was a very major policy because it brought up so many changes into the previous policies. We see one by one. So they gave so many objectives. Objective you have to remember, okay. So the first objective of Industrial Policy Statement 1977 was development of a small scale industrial sector. So they gave so much emphasis on these sectors, okay. They divided these into 3 categories. The first, cottage and household sector, the second, tiny sectors, and the last, small scale industries. So these industries were categorized under the broad head of a small scale industrial sector, and they were given so many amenities like financial aids as well, so that they could be developed further. After that, this policy suggested the following measure for the small scale and cottage industries of the country. So I have taught you the first objective, okay. This was the first objective, that development of a small scale and industrial sector should be there. So how this shall happen? So this shall be happen on the basis of these points. So they suggested that these things should be made happen to small scale and cottage industries, so that they can be developed further. So what were these? So just not going to extreme detail, okay, just going to share with you some points. Like they told that the first till 1976 there were only 180 industries which were listed for items which were listed for small scale industries, but these were increased to 807 items. After that, there was a new establishment of a district industry center for these specific industries, and after that, a Khadi and Village Industries Commission was revamped. After that, special arrangement for widespread application of suitable technology for small scale industries was also made. So these things were done just for the sake of developing the small scale industrial sector in India. And after that, what we have to understand, this is going to be the second point and the second objective of Industrial Policy Act 1977. So it prescribed, so this policy prescribed the following areas for large scale industrial sector. I told you, for small scales, they took some of the initiatives which I have already discussed with you. But for case of large scale sector, these things were developed, okay. The following sectors and the following areas were defined for the large scale sector, and they were also given a financial aids so that they could be promoted and developed further. What were these basic industries? For, like we have already discussed in 1948 thing, then capital goods industries, high technologies industries, and other industries which are outside the list of a small scale sector. So all these were spared just for large scale sector and for their development as well. They prescribed some of the financial aids. In this particular slide, what you have learned that these industries, these four basic industries were uh, reserved for large scale sector, and the government, the Janta government, took the initiative for financial aids for these as well, and these shall be held by the public sector or the government. Then the third one, big business houses. Okay, so they also suggested big business houses. Who suggested the industrial policies? 1977. So the 1977 industrial policy restricts the scope of large business houses so that no unit of the same business group acquired a dominant or monopolistic position in the market. So it was prohibited. Okay, so you can experience that MRTP Act was there. Okay, that was replaced afterward. So government never allowed any of the cooperative or the smaller sector to become biggest in the near future so that they can get the monopolistic position in the market. It never happened in India. You have experienced that in 1992 only the new policy of LPG, that stands for liberalization, privatization and globalization, was taken forth. But before that, the government always remained very careful so that no big player could come in the market so that they get the monopolistic position in the market. You shall understand this term only if you have gone through from the video lecture given regarding this particular topic under the head of business economics. So we move further. This is role of a public sector. Okay, the new policy also prescribed the expansion of role of a public sector. It was encouraged to develop ancillary industries and to transfer its expertise and technology and management to small scale and cottage industry sector. At that time, the public sector was at peak. Okay, it was at peak, and private sector did not grow this much further. The reason being, people did not have the efficient ideas and they did not have the efficient level of technology. But if you see now, you can easily compare the position of a public sector and private sector as well. I have already taught you the concept of disinvestment as well. Only this is the reason why disinvestment nowadays is being done. Just because public sectors are not doing this much better. So at that policy measure, the role of a public sector was enhanced further. Then promotion of technology, it was also emphasized that the technology should be promoted. The inflow of technology in a sophisticated area and the self-reliance within the India was also promoted. Then the policy recommended a consistent line of approach towards industrial units of the country. Whichever the industry, the government felt that it was good for the fortune and for the future of the country, but they are not performing well or they are underperforming. For their revival as well, the government took a number of initiatives. So these were known as the sick industrial units. Then management labor relationship. Okay, we have already studied this particular topic under the head of organization behavior as well. This policy made emphasis on reducing the occurrence of unlabor rest as well. The government encouraged the workers' participation in management, which we have already studied. Okay, they emphasize that from shop level to board level, there should be the participation of workers as well. So I think this was all about that. Okay, then there was industrial policy of 1980. Okay, this was 1980. So again, when the Congress took the charge of the country, then what happened? They again made some kind of changes. Okay, so what they did, they just changed some of the policy measure, and after that they made some kind of initiatives which were industry, which they felt are necessary. Okay, so we shall read about their objectives as well. So on 3rd of July 1980, Congress government announced new industrial policy. So it sought the economic federation and to raise the efficiency of a public sector, to reverse the trend of industrial production of the past 3 years, and they reaffirmed the faith in monopolies and restrictive trade practices act. So that these particular acts were again revived. Number of changes were made in these. Okay, so these two acts took into consideration, they took into charge so that no one could gain the monopoly position in the market. So first was this, and the second was Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, so that no one can take the money earned outside the country, or there shall be complete prohibition of unlawful money laundering activities. So these two acts were changed. Some of their we can say their sections were amended so that they became more stringent towards the defenders. Then there are some of the objectives of the policy, okay, which we have to understand. After that we shall see what is there for us. There are number of objectives, so one by one I am going to explain you these one. The first, we should make the optimum utilization of installed capacity in all the industrial units. After that, we should achieve higher productivity and generate higher employment. That was also objective of this policy. Then we have to correct the regional imbalance. Okay, so we have to give preference to industrially backward areas. So that was the third objective. After that, agricultural base should be strengthened much. Okay, so we should give the preference to agro based industries now. So that was also the main objective of this policy. Then export oriented and import substitution industries should be promoted further. This is why there was not much growth of a private sector. Okay, this was also one of the reasons. Then it promoted the economic federalization with equitable spread of investment over small but growing units in rural and urban areas as well. So government tried to promote both the areas simultaneously. These are known as economic federalism system. Then government tried to remove the infrastructural gaps as well. So these things were covered in this particular policy, which we have to understand. And now this is the last one. Okay, just let me tell you about this. This is the last one. This is current. 4 major policies we have already understood, and now this is the last one. Okay, so this is the now current one going, we can say, because it referred to the LPG system. So it was led by Narasimha Rao government. They announced the new policy on 24th of July 1991 in line with the liberalization move. So they just emphasized on this. The new policy radically liberalized industrial policy itself and deregulated the industrial sector substantially. So under this policy, actually, the decision were taken to bring forth the LPG system, which is known as liberalization, privatization, and globalization, about which we have to take the lecture separately. So some brief introduction regarding these I am going to give you. This policy emphasized on the following things. Okay, the first is you have to liberalize the industries from regulatory devices like licenses and control. Before 1991, if you were to open the business, you had to purchase the licenses, but now these should be liberalized. That was the first objective of new industrial policy. Then it enhanced support to small scale sectors. Then it increased the competitiveness of industries for the benefit of a common man. Number of new industries were opened for small scale industries. After that, it ensured running of public enterprises on business lines. So cutting their losses. Till that time, the public sector was facing so much losses, but these were ensured running on the business lines. Now the profit, somewhat profit motive also came into play. Then providing more incentives for industrialization of backward areas. It was also done, ensuring rapid industrial development in a competitive environment. So these were offered in these kind of industrial policies, I must tell you. But the major thing we have not covered in this particular lecture, because we have left this for the next lecture. Maybe we are going to take it today onwards. So that is related to LPG system that was majorly taken. That decision was taken in this particular industrial policy. After that, there had never been any kind of needs, because that policy is just being amended on a yearly basis. So what you have to do, you have to understand these policies. Policy 1, that was 1948, then 56, then 77, and after that there was a policy of 80, and after that whatever is currently going, that is just a resolution. Okay, so these things you have to understand. I hope that you would have got the complete idea of what we are going to do. Okay, in the next lecture we shall be talking about the complete system of how the industrial system was changed on the basis of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So these things we shall be discussing. In case we are going to take the next lecture, we are going to inform you. We shall inform you as soon as possible. Hope you would have got the complete knowledge regarding this particular topic. So thank you so much for joining me. This is Gurpal Singh from Gurpal Education.